What's up guys, Joey here. So as you know, I've been doing some customization to this Skygo Boss 150. I've changed it to a bottle pipe, which originally came in silver or chrome, and I painted that 5 months ago. Painted the front fender, painted the rear fender, and yeah, you can just see a little bit of customization going on. And today I was just going to do an update on how well the paint's held up. And one thing I emphasize, because I learned this when I used to paint cars, not for a living, but just my own cars, is the most important part's the prep work. So light sand with, like, depends on what grit you have. Like if you've got 800 grit, use 800. I reckon around 1,000 is good for this kind of stuff, depending on what you're doing. Like for high temp paint and exhaust, 1,000 grit's fine. And it just depends how long you want to sand it. But it's just, if it's got like a chrome finish, you do want to get, you do want to rough it up a little bit. You don't want it to be super smooth. But more importantly, before you paint, you need to wipe the surface for oil. And you can't see the oil. It's just like residues of anything that could be on the surface. You want to clean it as good as possible. And usually the best way I've found DIY is to use 70% isopropyl alcohol with no moisturizer and a microfiber cloth. And so this is the front fender. You can see those little specks. You can't really see them. I've got to go right close. You can see the surface isn't perfect at this spot. Like it bubbled a little bit. I think we were actually getting rain at that time. But the majority of it's fine. This is 5 months, you know, riding, and I only did 3 coats. Like it wasn't even like a full-on 5, 6, 7 coats that you should normally do. So this is like the 3 coats. Chicken jumped here and scratched here, so you can see how thin the coats actually are. A chicken, not a chicken, a cat. I had the bike cover on, and it was trying to get up onto the seat to sleep at night. And I think it tried to jump onto the front fender, so you can see where the cat scratch has gone through, and it's not buffing out. So I'm going to repaint this basically. I'm going to do some touch-up paint, and I just wanted to share that, to share my prep. And it's just DIY prep. Like, this isn't obviously not professional, but for anyone that's just wondering what can you do in your backyard, and how do you prep it, there's a lot of different ways. Like some people go full on, you know, with the masking tape and paper and cardboard and all that. I do it pretty ghetto. I kind of just, if there's black, I don't care if like paint gets on this, for example, or if a splash gets onto the shocks or whatever, I'll just touch it up as is on the bike. And oh yeah, the heat shield that I bought, like I bought a cheap heat shield. If you didn't see it in my other video, I had 2. This one's not really necessary because for the most part you don't touch here. This is the part you'll brush your leg on as the driver when you hop off. So this one's the important one. And this one that was like bolted onto the foot peg, the little bit of metal that was like holding it. Sorry, truck passing. What the heck is that? The little bit of metal that was holding the heat shield on just like randomly started getting loose and snapped off, maybe just from heat cycles. So I don't recommend that one. If you saw the one I was running, it was pretty average. And yeah, but this is the paint. Like I only did 2 or 3 coats on the exhaust as well. And apart from where the heat pipe had 2 bolts, the heat shield, there were 2 bolts that when I adjusted it to be the right distance, the bolts would actually, if you knock the heat shield with your leg or with something, the bolts would actually hit the exhaust, like they'd hit the muffler. So that's what those scratches are. But you can see the finish of the majority of it, like how well it's held up over 5 months. And I've just been riding it. I've never even really cleaned it. And apart from maybe here from some rain, where it went on a bit, some rain bubbled, some water splashed on the not fully dry. I don't know what that is. But that could be an imperfection on the actual pipe, because I didn't sand it before. Like this one came in silver. I think it was chrome, but it wasn't like a perfectly smooth to begin with, and I kind of just gave it a really, really quick sand and then just painted it black before putting it on the bike, and it was only 2 or 3 coats. But you can just see, like, you know, this has been getting ridden and heat cycled, how well the black high temp paint has held up. So yeah, you can see it's not perfect, but we'll see what we can do to fix it up a little bit. The heat shield, I think I painted the heat shield too. Like it originally was silver, and I also painted it. And that's held up pretty fine, but there is some bubbling. I think I put it on a bit too early. It wasn't fully dry, and then the heat cycles have wrecked the finish here. So I don't know, or that could be dirt. Could just be one layer came off. Like I put on a few too many coats, like maybe it was 4 coats, and like maybe the last coat didn't stick that well. But underneath is black, so that's fine. So anyway, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this. And you can also see the bracket, how I've set it up for the SEC side boxes. It's kind of DIY. I just like foot peg here to the back, and this one is not necessary because it does make it more rigid, like I can shake the whole bike with it, but even without it, nothing was going to snap for the weights that I carry, like 5 to 10 kilos of grocery per side. So anyway, let's just get to it. I'll just get to the prep. Probably the most important part is just the prep. And you can see it's pretty basic. Like I've got like a little empty bucket of water there, and I just wet sand it, and then I dry it with isopropyl, 70% isopropyl. So let me just angle this. This is the most, also here on the, this is the HEV or whatever, HVEC mono rack from Shopee, and it didn't have the best paint. Like there's parts that have just been flaking off. Nothing's been rubbing it. The paint was just coming off easily. And you can see here where it's been bolted. Like this hasn't been shifting, but maybe pressure or something. I don't know. Like there was rust underneath actually. And I put rust converter. That's why it's black and not brown. So there was rust here on these spots where the paint's flaked off, and you can see a little bit of rust there that I missed. But basically, I brushed it with rust converter, so that's turned it black. And then I'm just going to sand that and touch it up just to try to get it, you know, a little bit more protected. So I'll show that as well. I'm going to include that when I do this muffler. Alrighty, let's get the camera to the right height. That should be fine. Now I got to get the paint. I'll show you. So the brand of hi-temp paint I used before was Samurai, and that was fine on my old bike, but the recent one I was using was this brand Kobe hi-temp spray paint. I think because the price was good, and it's held up pretty well. Like it's rated for an unknown amount. It just says it's hi-temp, and it seems to work. It seems to do the trick, because it would have flaked off already if it was, you know, if it was unable to withstand it. Alrighty, so what have I got here? This is isopropyl green cross. Just make sure it's got no moisturizer in it, and that's just for right before you paint it. You brush it with that, and then here's my wet sandpaper. So it's the gray type, not the brown type, and this is just random. Oh, this is 1500. I thought I had 1000. That's fine. It'll still do the job. You just got to sand it a bit longer, because obviously the lower grit will take more off quicker. So we'll just start by where I'm going to touch it up, which is here, maybe here. Everything else held up pretty well. There's like a slight bit coming off here, but that's fine. And I just sand in a circular motion so that I don't feel any bumps. And I'll zoom this in right before I paint it so you can at least see. It's just to get the surface as smooth as possible, so that after you paint it, as long as you put enough coats, after you paint it, it will not show like that there was like a where you've touched it up. Like you won't see the mark where it's been scratched off. Because if you don't sand it, that's what will happen. You'll get like this annoying, the shape of whatever it is, like where the paint's come off, will come through. I'll get this tiny little bit that was sticking. I think it was actually the welding that this was sticking out on this little point here. I don't think I can take that off with sandpaper. No, it's not going to come off with sandpaper. It's actually like a piece of metal, like it's metal. There's like a little metal bubble. And I guess I could just repaint that anyway. And I'm not even going to bother with the other side, because I only really care about the side that's showing. I did paint the whole thing when I first did it. But this is more just, you know, after 5 months. Like if you check my video, when I first bought this pipe, you can see it was like 5 months ago, and it was black when I put it on. So I painted it, and this is the same. Like if you were going to prep it, you'd be doing exactly this, just the whole thing, the entire exhaust. You'd sand it all the way from the what's it called? From the manifold to the muffler. So it's the same general idea if you're doing a full pipe or just a little bit. It's just a little bit. Yeah, there's a little imperfection. I didn't even spend that much time prepping it the first time, eh? You can just see how light the paint was, and that held for 5 months perfectly fine, apart from where I had a bolt scratching on it from the heat shield. And you can see how shiny it was actually. Like, it's actually pretty shiny, so probably because I'm also using 1500 grit, but at least it helps rough it up a little bit. It's better than the fully shiny finish that won't even, you know, nothing will stick to it that well when it's pure chrome. So yeah, you can see how shiny, how quickly that came off. Just some light sanding in a circle. And then I'm also going to do up here, just where I'm going to touch it up. And yeah, I try not to invest too much, what's it called? Like, I wouldn't remove all this just to do this little touch-up work, because it's not an expensive bike and it is a daily runner, so chances are it'll get more scuff marks and things over time, and I'd rather be able to just touch it up quickly to stop it rusting rather than like put it out of commission if I fully take off the rear bracket and everything just to touch it up a tiny bit. It's just too much prep work for a little. I just wanted to share this because some people are probably wondering, like, how well does it hold up when you, this is the important part, is to prep. You don't just paint over with a light wipe. Let me get the camera. Just use my selfie stick so you can see what I'm doing here. So that's where I've sanded. And you can see what I'm doing to sand it. I'm just literally just pushing my thumb like that. And this is a square. I fold it into a square and I just rub it. If you have room to do a circular motion, that's better. But in this spot, just up and down is all I can really manage. And maybe back and forth a tiny bit. And then when I feel it, I'm trying to feel if there's going to be a big bump or not, that it's really... For black, it doesn't matter. For colors, it matters way more, like if you were doing a color. But just when you paint it, you'll see the indent if you don't sand it as smooth as possible to the rest of the finish. So you can just kind of run your finger. And if you have to take extra off for doing this kind of touch-up, that's fine. Like, that's actually preferable if you have to take some off just to get it smooth. So when you feel along, like I can feel there's a bump here. So I mean, I don't want to repaint the whole thing, so, but you can see it's starting to flake off because I'm sanding at the edge of the finish of where the paint meets the metal. Okay, I'll just go over a few times. So you can see it's turning gray as well. So now I can't feel the bump on this part. It's just this inner bit, tiny bit, just there. And be careful with your pressure. If you push hard, you will just take more off, like more of the top coats will come off, and then you just end up having to sand further and further when you're only trying to get like a light even sand. So back here, oh look, there's this huge bit here. Where it's metal, I'll push a little bit harder, just because I want to make sure that I rough up the surface a bit, but I try not to push hard on the edges where it's going to take more paint off. So it's hard to kind of show on camera, but I'm trying not to put too much pressure into this, while still, yeah, it's hard to explain with practice, but it doesn't matter. If you take too much off, you just got to paint a bit extra. So just depends how many coats you're doing. Like, practice on a small piece first if you're doing a kind of DIY paint thing. And then let's see this other side, how bad it is. There's it's mainly around here, but you can see there was rust here that flaked off from, so this is a Shopee, I don't know what this, FC15 monorack, whatever, but you can see the shape of it. It's for the Skygo Boss 150. So if you're buying this type of thing, I would actually recommend painting it before you put it on, even though it comes in black. Just give it a light sand, because you'll be able to find the rust parts. The paint where there's rust will come off really quick, because I don't think they properly rust-proofed this thing for rust to be under the paint. Like, before they painted it, there was probably rust already. There could be more, like it'll just get worse and worse over time. Like, there could be rust up here, and I won't know until it flakes off, unless I sand the whole thing. And if I had known, I would have done it before putting it on the bike. I would have repainted the whole thing and just sanded it down, because rust is annoying, but it's not the biggest deal. Maybe if it was a more expensive setup. But I've seen people doing this kind of stuff on expensive bikes too, so. Need a bit more water. And yeah, for wet sanding, you basically just make sure it's wet. And it helps not take too much off. Dry sanding will take off really quick. Seriously, chickens, you guys are ruining... no, get off. Why? Go away. See if I can actually sand out. Like, this is chrome underneath. I only did a few coats, right? I was actually able to sand off that, those cat scratch marks. I don't even think I have to repaint that. Something like 3-4 coats that I did. Yeah, look, see this? So they were just like surface scratches, but the undercoat was still okay. Like the deeper coats were still there. So that's not even worth touching up. I'm not going to repaint there. And this freaking chicken though. These baby chickens, they're not mine, and they come in from the neighbor's house, and they kind of just want free food. So, now there is a bit here underneath on the rear fender where I was bolting that I think scratched, but because underneath's chrome, it's not going to rust. And I don't really care, you can't see that when you're riding. You can't see this part, so I might paint these little bolts, but I have to wipe them first with the isopropyl. Why are all the chickens here? Seriously. Get out. Go us. Get out. Okay, just enjoy this interlude. Get out, chickens. Out. Get away. Get away. What is that? What's that there? I don't know what that is. Okay, so you can at least see where I've prepped. There, along the bar. And it just looks a bit dirty because I haven't wiped it down yet. These chickens are gonna ruin the audio. Like, I swear, all you're gonna hear is choop, choop, choop. Freaking hell. Oh well, I'll upload this anyway. Show you what I'm doing when I'm not gaming. And yeah, this stuff was meant to be vibration dampening, and the tape just didn't even stick because I didn't clean the bracket properly, so it's like come loose, but it still stops it. Like, there's no rattling sounds. So I've just left it there if it'll hold, but if it falls off, I'll just... Yeah, I don't really care how pretty it looks. What else? I think that was the main part. I really just wanted to touch up around the mono rack. I can still see some rust here, so I didn't get converter on this part, like it's kind of just been showing now when I took the side boxes off. So I might sand that a little bit longer to see if I can take off the rust without needing to convert it, because rust converter will help get deeper rust, like if it's just beyond the surface, and then you just leave it for a day and come back to it. But I want to paint it today, so can we get off the... There we go. Yeah, I think that... Oh, there's more rust under to the front. That'll do. That's not too bad. You can see where the rust bits are. Like, there's a bit of pitting. My sandpaper's getting... Shit! Why? Alrighty. Let's just get this part too. Yeah, there's rust pitting here. I should have had a lower grip. Maybe 800 would have been good. That's okay. I can get it with 1500. Just gotta push a little bit harder. Okay, that'll do. Alrighty. So, what am I doing here? Wash that down. I'm just using the dirty water because I'm gonna wipe it again with the microfiber, just to get the worst parts of the sanding off. And also this front part where I sanded, we'll see if it really looks discolored from the light sanding. If it looks alright, I'll just leave it alone, because it's going to get scuffed up in the future anyway. As long as it's not rusting and it looks black. Right. Get the microfiber. Well, you can see where I've sanded, but it might as well be like weathering, you know. Not a big deal. I'll just leave that for now. I'll touch that up another time. How's that looking far away? Looks alright. Yeah. Okay. So now we wipe. This is right before painting, just with microfiber. But try not to spread dirt from somewhere else. Like you can see, I've got dirt. I don't have a pressure washer up here in the mountains. And if I ride down to town where there's a washer, by the time I get back up here, it's going to be dirty again. Like I could take off the thicker layer of dirt, but that's not going to move compared to if you get fresh dust on it. So I don't want loose dirt. I don't care about the caked on dirt. Okay, so you can see where I've sanded. This is the touch-up area. And up here. See, this here is not me. This is how it was painted from Shopee, from the store selling it. So that's not my paint work. So my paint finish is closer to this one. You know, not the best, but without clear coat, that's how it is. Alrighty, now I can do the alcohol. Alright, I'm just going to set this up again. Hope it's not overheating. Yeah, that's a good. I don't want it too close actually, just in case the wind. It's not that windy. Like you want good weather, no rain, no wind, average humidity, which you can't really do much about here in Philippines. But they're the main parts. You don't want wind, you don't want rain, and you don't want it to be really hot, like not in the middle of the day, or humid. So not in the early morning, not in the evening. Mid-evening is probably the best time, after midday, 2 or 3. This is fairly clean microfiber block. Good enough. Good enough, mine. show on camera real quick. Just that's basically how it looks. Nothing too special, but that's how clean I tried to get it, and as well that feels smooth when I run my finger over it. Alright. I just can't have the camera too close when I'm painting because there might be some slight wind. Like I've got a wall here on the other side, but wind comes from the other way and moves around weird in this area. This is really wide angle, ain't it? I can get it more directly in front. Hopefully that's not too close. Just gonna test spray it upside down. Quick spray, that looks alright. And I'll let that dry. That's like you might still be able to see underneath. Back, I was going to spray these bolts. And I'll just wait a bit. So that's half a coat. Just give that a quick that was water. Wait a bit. I'm trying to hold my breath. What's this thing beeping about? Does it overheat? I just beat for no reason. Alrighty. I wasn't able to get it super smooth in this spot, but it's better than rough. Didn't even prep here. I'm just going to try. See how well it holds. Okay, so you can still see the slight outline. I need another coat or so, 1 or 2 coats, but that's basically it. It's just matte black, high temp paint, so I don't have to worry about it being super perfect. It adds character. I think that was a bit of metal under here. There's a little bit that was sticking out from when I first started. And I think that's actually imperfection in the metal, just like this spot here. These little things are not bubbles, that's actually metal when I try to sand it. So I'd have to get some lower grit and really sand it down if I want to get rid of that. But I don't care, so we'll see how well this holds up for like another 5 months. You can see in the other parts, like I painted, that was silver. I painted before I put the heat wrap on, and that's held up fine. Like, if I get the dirt off, you can see that it's not flaking. Anywho, I'll have to get it really clean for a good video later. Get a pressure washer. So this was the first part that I took more time sanding, and you can see how it's turned out. Like, it's almost, you almost can't see it. Needs a bit more. But there, it was a bit deeper where the rust was. And it's hard to sand without removing it. So if you want the best finish, obviously remove it. But I reckon that'll hold just fine because it's been prepped decent, you know. You could prep it better, but, you know, it's mainly just getting the grease off. That'll be a bit too thick. That's probably the last coat for there. And here on this side, I didn't sand that much. That's actually a mark from the straps that I use. So ignore this part, that's water, that'll come off. It's mainly here. I think I got some water paint bubbles here, that'll just come off. Like, Doesn't hurt it. And here I just tried to paint the bolts a little bit. Where I didn't prep, it actually looks pretty good. Didn't do any prepping. I wiped them. I wiped them with alcohol. So that's actually probably the most important part of prepping, is cleaning. So these bolts will be decently painted. But it'll come off if I ever have to remove them. Like if it's stuff like this, when you go to put a tool on it, it'll come off straight away. So anyway, hope that was interesting for you guys. Just the DIY paint at home. This was all rusted up before. And I think there was a spot under there that I missed. Yeah, I actually missed a spot. It's like hard to reach right under. Don't know if I can really get it from this angle, because you can't tip the paint can upside down. Not without it going on too thick. Maybe I can get it from underneath, from the back here. Yeah, okay. Let's just try. Get this out of the way. There was a little bit on that side too. I don't even know if I prepped that part properly. Oh, it disappeared as soon as I... Alrighty. That'll do. We'll have to wait till it dries, because you can't really tell how it's going to look until it's fully dry. Bit thick. Went on a bit thicker there. Try to cover it. But you got to be really careful. If you put it on thick, you got to leave it to dry longer. Like, don't even try riding the bike 2 days or so. Yeah. Excuse me. You can see here where the big part was that I sanded. It's just about gone. That'll do. Maybe a little bit more under here where I missed. Bit wind. That'll do. I am wearing a mask. Just if you're curious, put on my riding mask, and N99 or whatever. And also this was all silver before too, including the pedal. Now the pedal's worn off, you can see the silver showing, but the actual where I painted down there is fine. It held up pretty well. Now it's just a matter of waiting for it to dry. And I'm not going to ride it for at least 2 days now that it's freshly painted. It's got to be really careful, covered up, and well, not covered up, you don't want it to be fully covered, it needs air, but to stop animals and stuff. And we'll see the front, like maybe I can give it a light touch up here. I did wipe it with alcohol, like I did clean it. It's mainly this area, so that's dirt, so I don't want to paint there where I didn't wipe properly. That'll do. I just touched it up a tiny bit. One go. Nah, I don't want to do any more. I didn't prep the front fender entirely. It's more this part. We'll see how that holds up, eh? Alrighty. Thanks for watching, guys. There you go. a little bit, oh, it's rusted though. I missed a spot there, there's rust there. The lazy touch-up. And here there's rust on this bracket. I'll have to get to one day, but it's not holding anything. Alrighty, catch this later.